Hey everybody, Hooble's Cat. Prepping Patreon and me. I have no objection to people going on Patreon, no problem with that at all. It's an individual choice. I don't think it's healthy for prepping. I'll explain why. First off, no host on YouTube is from the future, so none of us have lived through global catastrophe. So what we're spouting, what we're saying, what we're advising, what we're even adamant about is pure and absolute guesswork. Pretty much all the content on YouTube from pretty much every host is plagiarised, taken from other sources, at worst from their own ramblings of their own mind, without external or different points of view taken on board. There's plenty of those channels out there on prepping, and they're quite sad to watch. This is how you get things like November the 4th, Antifa is going to cause civil war. A story which is very easily debunked, has absolutely almost no basis in reality. And some people out there are convinced that it's going to happen, and you know what? I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for your subs, because when it doesn't happen, they won't unsubscribe you because you're a loony. They will keep subscribing to you because you're feeding something they have psychologically as a need. The other problem with plagiarism on YouTube is we don't usually give credit to people. For most of my videos, I've looked at a lot of other videos. I don't really give them credit. Sometimes, mostly because I can't remember. And for my medical videos, I use my own life experience, and I go to usually scientific research sites, because science is actually good and isn't a corrupted force in the world. So I'm doing it as a hobby. I'm doing it for me, which I think is an okay way of doing it. I'm doing it so I can communicate with you, and you can teach me how to prep better, because I don't know. I have some ideas on some things, I have some specialist skills in very few areas, but I have a large blank spot. So most prepping is done by people who don't know what they're talking about. They just have an interest in it. It's called a hobby. This is different from, for example, bushcraft, where there is clear, and wildcraft, where there's complete experts on YouTube. There are a few, and they can actually teach, and they're using their own experience, though I would argue they probably learned from somebody at some point. So we're doing a hobby. We're not creating new content. We're not creating new thoughts. We may at best have new insights that may at best be helpful, potentially, for people. So number one, you're not making a spoon and selling me a spoon. What you're doing is you're selling me entertainment at worst, and at best you're selling me thought-provoking ideas that could potentially save my life in a great down SHF world without rule of law situation. So I thank you for that. Thank you. So as people, mostly the bigger channels, not all of them, some of them took a stand against Patreon, or at least against giving all their content on Patreon, and I thank you for that. I think it's important. So for most people that migrate to Patreon, they're doing it because their ad revenues drop from YouTube. Well, that's fine. I ask you a question right now. When did you last click on an ad on a YouTube prepping channel and actually buy anything? It's frankly amazing they're still even giving any money out at all to prepping channels, because the vast majority of them aren't generating ad revenue for YouTube. They're really not. So no wonder they've been cutting back. The other issue with demonetization people get agitated about is because YouTube randomly, in their opinion, doesn't like their content. Yeah, pretty much. YouTube owns it, so stop squealing. Produce content that YouTube likes and they won't demonetize you. Your goal is money. Wow. Okay. I have nothing against poor people using YouTube to churn videos out, to get hits, to get ad revenue. You know what? It's an income source. That's fine. But don't expect me to give you any loyalty. Don't expect me to give you any praise for being a prepper. You know, you're after money. It's simple as that. So that's a few channels. We all know who they are. Now the rest of them who complain about the lack of money, their biggest argument is, it costs me so much money and time to generate the content, I'm owed cash for it. Well, no, you're not. It's a hobby. This is where it gets interesting. I prophesize, being profitables, that by migrating to Patreon, we create a vacuum on YouTube, and more than one content host will start or expand to fill the gap. So you won't be missed. Sorry, you won't. It's as simple as that. Click off YouTube, delete your account, nobody remembers who you are a couple of weeks later. There are a few out there that people really remember well, like Main Prepper and people like that, people from the early days. Great stuff, great channel. His content's long since been replaced. Long since been replaced on YouTube. And that will happen to everybody who goes to Patreon. Now, I have a Patreon account. I haven't activated it. I'm thinking of activating it so I can put PowerPoints and PDF files and actually research links there for people that are interested in it. But I haven't got the time or the energy right now, so that's in the future. But I set up the account just in case. If I do activate Patreon, there will be one level of entry, and it will be $0. If you want to give me cash, great. I'm not stupid, but I don't want cash for doing a hobby. The problem when you have any cash barrier to content is you prevent some people, the poorest, the most oppressed, the most in need of help, from getting it. And you might feel good about yourself for that. I personally think it's disgusting. I think it's disgusting that you might have tiered levels of support that actually restrict your content and your ideas, which mostly is plagiarized from other people. That I have a problem with. At the end of the day, if you go to Patreon and you stay on Patreon, please don't come back to YouTube begging, asking for us to leave YouTube to go to your Patreon account to give you money. You've been there, you've done that. Viking Preparedness did this, made it very public. I am leaving YouTube, I'm never being on YouTube again. And yep, he came crawling back to put some content on YouTube because he quickly realised that Patreon's a dead end. Patreon in of itself is not something most people will click on and browse and search. This might happen in the future. So overall I think it's healthy for prepping on YouTube for people to go to Patreon. If you really want cash, please go to Patreon, get out of town, allow hobbyists the opportunity to create content and get more views and more thoughts, more process, more two-way process going. You've been dominating, for good reasons, channels, and now you're going to go because you don't get enough cash. That's fine. Now the other problem with Patreon is that you guys really don't know how nice Patreon will be to you once Patreon becomes established and dominant in the field. And I can tell you right now it will be as nice to you as YouTube. In fact, I think it will be worse than YouTube's been because its very premise is to get money for views, whereas YouTube's very premise is to get advertising for views. Think about that. The other issue is, people say it costs money and time and effort to make content. Yeah, I agree with it does. It takes money, it takes time, it takes effort. I do it because I like it. Rough and ready videos, get used to it. I'll develop over time as I feel the interest, and I will develop that. But the big channels that squeal about ad revenue, wow, you guys. Very few of you answer comments below, so there is actually it's a one-way conversation, which is not inherently educated. So you're not educating anybody, please leave. The ones, the big channels that actually do communicate on a regular basis beneath to the comments, great, thank you. That's called education, that's what's needed in the world. But those big channels do live streams, or can do live streams, and during the live stream they can raise $100, $200, $300 by people actually making a decision to give money to that content creator. I've done that, other people have done that, and I think that's a great way of actually supplanting revenue to actually get some cash to buy new cameras and stuff like that, and that's great. Good. If you want to do gear reviews, get the gear from the companies or make it yourself and then sell it to the people who watch your videos. If that's what people want to do, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you can raise way enough money to pay for this hobby on live chats if your channel's big enough. The problem is you guys want is part-time income. You've got greedy. You've forgotten that prepping is for the end of the world. Prepping is for a time and a place when money doesn't really mean much. Whether it's short-term or long-term, SHTF, money doesn't really mean much. The pursuit of money is not the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of money is not the pursuit of a prepping lifestyle in my opinion. And I'll finish now by just saying I do support 2 channels for Patreon. So I'm a hypocrite, as are we all. Those 2 channels I support because I think they need my money, and I think they need my money monthly, specifically to support their actual lifestyles, which are actually mostly what they're producing for content. In other words, if I don't help those people out, their lifestyles will end and their great content will end. And that's really a shame. So because I've got lots of cash, I'm going to do that. But don't tell me to give just $1 a month. What's $1 a month? You know what $1 a month is? It's $1. And $1 is a lot of money. And finally, from a foreign perspective, because all perspectives are good, YouTube live chat, I can donate you cash directly in Canadian dollars. I'm in Canada. That's nice for me. I prefer to do it that way. Patreon, I have to use American dollars. I'm not doing it. I'm going to support channels on Patreon as and when I feel like it. I would prefer it if content hosts stop begging me for money on their videos. You can quietly mention it and you can quietly put a link in, that's fine. But don't pretend that you're going to Patreon for some noble reason. You're going to Patreon because you want to get more money than YouTube's giving you, and you believe in your heart of hearts that you deserve that money. You also believe that your content is so unique and so special that other people won't just start YouTube channels and actually look at what you did and do it better. Anyway, good luck, have a great day, and yes, if you take this personally, you get upset, I'm sorry, get over it. This is my unique perspective on it. I think Patreon's unhealthy for prepping. It cuts conversations out. It removes people who have some expertise in areas from a generalised conversation with the mass horde of people who click on prepping videos. And until Patreon is as big as YouTube, you're restricting your content. You're creating your own echo chamber. People give you money, love you, they love your point of view. You're not going to hear negatives on Patreon. No trolls on Patreon. No negatives. Good for you. Close your mind, open your money, open your wallet, and hope the pennies trickle in. I think you're going to be really disappointed, and I look forward to seeing more of the Patreon people come crawling back to YouTube to try and generate increased traffic, because that's how they see us, into their Patreon accounts. Patreon could be useful, could be a good tool, but do not restrict access to your content based on the ability to pay. That's not right. That's neo-capitalistic. It's not nice, and you are going to potentially, if you have great content, kill people by doing so. Anyway, have a great day. I know this will be somewhat controversial. People have strong opinions either side of this. I think Patreon's good. I think it's useful. I don't think it's YouTube, and I don't think the way it's being used by YouTube content creators mostly is helpful to prepping. At the end of the day, that's where it's at for me. Google's cat, over and out, toodaloo. Feel free to attack me viciously, but have a critique, don't just attack me, or I'll bleep you. Take it easy. Bye.